to session 3 of LandSpeed, the secrets to pricing like a boss. I'm Howard Zonder, CEO of LandSpeed, the premier CRM system built exclusively for land investors. So in session 1, we talked about secret number 1, which was in order to make a lot of money in land, you have to buy low and sell low. The conventional wisdom in business is buy low, sell high. But if we do that, we can't turn our money over as many times during the year, which means we can't do as many deals with the same amount of money. So with buy low, sell low, we can sell faster and then we can reinvest that money more times and make more money. Sometimes 40% or more profit per year by doing it that way. Then in session 2, we said, all right, well, if we're going to do that, we need to really buy low, which means we really need to understand the value of property. So we talked about the next 2 secrets. The first one was the metric we need to use is price per acre. So when we look at a lot of properties, we see the price and we see the acreage, but the acreage is all over the place. So how do we really know what the value is in a particular market? Well, if we convert all of the comps that we have into a price per acre, then we can average those together and we can start to come up with what a market price per acre would look like. And at that point, we can multiply it times the size of a property and give every property a unique price based upon that price per acre. But we also talked about another secret, and that was to allow us to get even more specific about the county. Because if you remember, the price of a property on one side of the county could be very different than the price on another side of the county. So we wanted to get into even smaller geographical units. And the units that we really would like to see are subdivisions if possible. Not always possible, but if you can find out the subdivisions and value what is the market price per acre in a subdivision, and then figure out your offer from that, multiply it times the size of the property, then you're getting a pretty darn accurate price for an offer. If you can't get subdivisions, that's okay. We can use smaller geographical divisions, maybe in the nearest town, or maybe we can use something like section, township, range, which we can talk about in a more advanced class, but it's just a way that the government puts a grid over the map of the United States to chop it up into smaller geographical units. Today, what I want to do is I want to bring these ideas together and I want to actually do some pricing for you so you can see it in action. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up a spreadsheet so you can take this information and really manipulate it fast and effectively. All right, so let's go over to the computer. So what we have here is a spreadsheet. Sorry guys, but I couldn't avoid it. We have to do a little bit of spreadsheet work here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this spreadsheet up. And I'm going to come down to about row number 4, and I'm going to put my headers. I'm not going to put them in row 1. I'm going to put them in row 4. So the first header that I want is I want to know the source of the data that I'm going to be using. It might be LandWatch, it might be Zillow, it might be Craigslist, it might be county data. Wherever it's coming from, I want to know the source. I'm not so worried about the date of the ad because when I filter the ads that I look at, I'm going to put a restriction in there. I want to look at the newer stuff. So I know that it's all within what I would consider the comp period. So date's okay. But I do want to leave room for a subdivision, which may just mean some smaller geographical unit. Then I need the price of the property. I'm going to skip one, and then I'm going to say then I need the acreage of the property. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do price divided by acres is going to give me my price per acre, which is that metric that we want. I'm going to put one last one, which I'll explain in a moment, called deviation. And we'll explain that in a second. Now I've got this blank one right here. And why do I have a blank one? The reason is because when we pull comps from LandWatch or Zillow or Craigslist or anywhere where people are offering property for sale, we could assume that the actual price that it gets sold for will not be what they're asking. There probably will be some kind of negotiation. And so we can just set a number, whatever we think that discount should be. So maybe we think the discount should be 20%, and that's what, when it sells, it'll sell for 20% of the value, or 10%, or 30%. You can put whatever you want here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this the adjusted price. And for this, we're going to need a formula. And what we're going to do, the way Excel works, is to create a formula. The first thing you do is you put an equal sign. and then you can select cells. So I'm going to select the price of this in this row, and I'm going to multiply it times 0.8, which indicates that there's a 20% discount on the property. So the price is actually going to be 80% of the asking price, and it's going to say 0. And I'm going to show you a little trick now, though, because I don't want to have to type 0.8 in every time I put a formula in. So I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to type discount, and I'm going to put 0.8, and I'm just going to turn that into a percentage. And now, in my formula here, instead of saying 0.8, I'm just going to reference this cell. So now it's the price times 0.8. But what's going to happen is, now notice this is important. So if I pull this down, and I want to just pull the formula down so I can copy it, now notice it says B2, but I want it to say B1. Well, that's not going to work for me. So what I'm going to do is, in B1, because I want it to always stay B1, I'm going to put a $sign before the B and a $sign before the 1, and that's how you can keep it the same. So now notice, I'll pull it down, and the next one is going to say C6. So this one said C5 times B1, and this one will say C6 times B1. So I can just pull this down, and it'll automatically calculate as I add information. I need one more formula, and that formula is for price per acre. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my equal sign to indicate that it's a formula, and I'm going to use the adjusted price, and I'm going to I'm going to divide it by the acreage price per acre. And that's going to give me my price per acre. Notice it gives me this weird div/0 symbol right now. That's because there's no data in here. But as soon as we add some information, it'll automatically update. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this formula down, and it'll automatically calculate as I put the information in. So now we're ready to get some source data. So let's go over to LandWatch. Now I'm just going to do LandWatch today, but you could do this with LandWatch, Zillow, Craigslist, all of them. It's the same, pretty much the same process. The first thing you have to do is you have to filter just for the comps that you want to use. In LandWatch, I like to use this advanced search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a state. In this case, it's going to be Arizona. And then I'm going to go to a county, and I'm going to use Yavapai. And in property type, I just want to see land. And now for the value of the property, I'm going to say anything that's being offered for 0 to $20,000. Let's say that. And I'm going to hit View Properties. And I can see that I've got 490 listings. That's an awful lot. So I'm going to narrow this down a little bit. I'm going to narrow it down by acreage. So I'm going to say I just want to see 11 to 50 acres. And that's the great thing about LandWatch is it has all these filters on the side, so you can filter your data, which is quite nice. And now I've got 52, and I can reorganize how these are presented. So I like to do it with just listed, so the newest records come up first. And now here I have the specific records that are my comps. And what I want to do is that the filters that I use are based upon the kind of land that are the filters that I use to create my mailing list and who I want to mail to. So if if I've created a list of properties that I think are going to be roughly in this price range because this is what I can afford, and roughly in this acreage and certainly in this county, then I use the same filter for my county list as I do for my comps. So now what we have to do is we have to bring this information over into our spreadsheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split my screen a little bit. I can move this over. And we don't have a ton of columns here, so I'm going to bring this over. And in this case, I'm going to put source is LandWatch. And I'm just going to start putting prices in acreage. So this one is 17.5. Notice how it automatically calculated the adjusted price down to 14,000. And now I'm going to say it's 40.54 acres. And it automatically calculates my acreage or my price per acre at $345 per acre. Beautiful. So it's doing all the work for me. Now I know these are all LandWatch, so again, I can just pull this down and say LandWatch. And we'll go to the next one. So the next one is 17,000 for 20 acres. And 20 acres. And the next one is 17,000 for 12.2 acres. And let's go to the next ones. We're going to do a few more. So we'll do 19,000. Oops, didn't mean to do that. For 30.06. And we'll do 16,000 for 12.61. And 12,000 for 40,000. Okay. For 12,000 for 40. There we go. Okay. That's fine. That's to get us started with. You know what? Just for fun, let's do a couple Zillows as well. So I'm going to open up another tab. I'm going to go to Zillow. And I'm just going to type in Yavapai County, Arizona. And now the nice thing about Zillow is I can do for sale data or I can do recently sold data. Now recently sold data are real comps. So if they're there, I'm going to use the real comps. So I'm just going to say recently sold. And I've already got it set to up to 20,000. And over in more, I can see I just home type, lots and land. That's what I want. And the acreage, you can set the acreage to anything you want. It's now set to 11 to 50, so it's perfect. So I'm going to apply it. And I've got 99 results. I could potentially bring all of these into the spreadsheet. But let's just bring in the top one. By the way, I also want to organize it by newest. So I basically set this up exactly the same way as I did LandWatch. So now I'm going to say I've got 17,000 for 40 acres. Actually, what I'm going to do is change over here to Zillow now. So I've got 17,000 for 40. And then I've got 9,000 for 44.9. And then I've got 19.9 for 44.8. Oops. 44.8. And 20,000 for 20. 3,000 for 40. Wow, that's cheap. Should buy that. And let's do two more. So 16.5 for 39.9. And 18,750 for 40. All right, that's good. All right, I'm going to get rid of the rest of these formulas. We don't need them. All right, so here are my comps. I've got two sources here. I've got LandWatch and I've got Zillow. Now, what I need to do is I need to get the average of all of this price per acre. So again, I can use formulas in Excel. So I'm going to do a formula. I'm going to use the equal sign. Now I could just say average, right? Average is a formula. And so I type in average, parentheses, and then I can just select the records that I want to average. Do the close parentheses, and boom, there it is. So my average is 486. But I want to show you a better way to do the average. And it's a formula called subtotal. And so the formula is equal sign subtotal, parentheses, 1 comma, and now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to select the records that I want, close parentheses, and imagine that. It comes out the same, 486. Well, why do I like this one better? This one is actually much more powerful. I'm going to show you why. Because we can start playing with this data. What I'm going to do right now, this is my header line, source subdivision. I'm going to select these, and I'm going to come over. I'm going to open up this spreadsheet. I don't need the other sites anymore. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to select these. Now, over here, you see this sort and filter. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to turn the filter on. And now I see these little chevrons under each header. And what that allows me to do is filter the data. So I can come in here and say, you know what? I just want to see the LandWatch data. Or I just want to see the Zillow data. So notice, when I do that, the average stays the same. The average is still averaging all of the records that I've collected, but the subtotal is only averaging the ones that I'm looking at. So this is very, very powerful and very useful to help me use one spreadsheet, one set of data to do a lot of different kinds of analyses. Whereas if I used average, I might have to reproduce this on multiple different tabs for different purposes. It's very confusing. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of average because I don't need it. Let's bring this up one. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is this is the average price per acre, right? So let's clear this filter. And it's the average price per acre of what people are asking for the property. And I've already made an adjustment, so I converted sales data into adjusted price. By the way, if I had one, let's just say, oh, I'm sorry, I did make a mistake here. I made a mistake. This Zillow data is sold data. It's not for sale data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut this, and I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to overwrite the formulas. Okay. And this just moved the formula. So all I have to do is take this and pull it down now. And it brings it back. Because now I don't want to adjust these Zillow comps because these are already sold comps. So now it's just going to give me the actual comp divided by 40 is going to give me my price per acre. Okay. So now what I want to do is make sure I don't have any outliers. I don't want to have any results in here that are completely skewing my numbers. I can see that I've got, most of them are low or certainly below 1,000, and I've got a few that are above 1,000. But if you collect a lot of data, there could be a lot of numbers all over the place. So what I like to do is use this deviation column. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a formula, so it's going to be equals, and I'm going to take my price per acre and I'm going to divide it by the subtotal. This is the average. Now, remember, as I go down, I want to get the formula to be this using this cell and this cell and this cell, but I want it to always pull from subtotal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my dollar signs again here. So it's going to be $F, $19. And I'm going to bring it down. And now it tells me the deviation from the median. So this property, this price per acre is 65% of my subtotal of the average. We can just change that back to average to use the right word. Whereas this one is 128%. This one is 209%. So these ones that are particularly high, maybe I want to just delete these because they're skewing my numbers. So what I can really see here, though, I'm just going to highlight them in yellow, is that these that are above 1,000 are really skewing my numbers. And I could even do the lower one too. I mean, this one is very, very low at 14%. It really doesn't make much sense. So I'm going to say that's skewing it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the rows of those comps that don't seem to make much sense and are probably skewing my numbers, will lead me to a bad offer. So, and then I'm going to take these two rows and I'm going to go ahead and delete them. So now I've got a price per acre, retail price per acre of $414. Now I need to convert this to an offer. So I want my offer percentage. Let's just say we want our offers to be 20 cents on the dollar. So I'm going to put 0.2. And I'm just going to go ahead and convert that over to a percentage, 20%. And now my offer dollar, offer price is going to be equal sign the average times the offer percentage. And there it is. So my offer is going to be $82.73 per acre times the size of the property. And so when I put it into my county list, so long as I have one column that's got all the parcel sizes, I can put a formula in there that says 82.73 times the cell representing the parcel size and pull that formula down and I can price the entire sheet. But what I may want to do is get a little bit more accurate. Remember, we would like to get into subdivisions here. So I want to find out where some of these properties are. So let's just take an example. So here's one, and I've got a map here. Let's get a sense of where this is. So, so let's bring this, make this a little bit larger. Let's try this one. Let's see what this is. Okay, so this is west of Ash Fork and a little bit southwest of where this fork happens. Now I want to show you another tool. This is going to be very helpful for you to help you kind of figure out some kind of subdivisions. It's called Statistical Atlas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the map, and all I did is I just went to Statistical Atlas. It gives me the whole United States. I'm going to click on Arizona. And I can see up in this area is where I'm looking at. This is Yavapai County, but it's called the Prescott area. And let's see, if I go in, this dot right here is Ash Fork, which means the area we're looking at is right about here. Now, this is sort of, these are huge counties, and this is kind of probably big unincorporated land area. So it's not allowing me to go into much more detail than this. But if, let's just say the property was down here in Paulden, I could open it up and I can get inside Paulden. I can go, even look down at a zip code level and find areas. So if I have property that's, here versus over here, this would be maybe Paulden City Center, and this is Paulden Exurbs, however I want to do it. But it allows me, it gives me some information as to where properties are. So just for the sake of argument, just so I can show you how this works, I'm going to say Paulden for some of these. And then I'm going to, let's back out of this a little bit. And I've got Clarkdale over here. So this would be the Clarkdale area. So let's say Clarkdale for the others. Paulden. Say Clarkdale. Okay. So now, because I've put the subdivision information in, I can use my filter again. So what I'm going to do with my filters, I'm going to say, let me just look at Paulden subdivision. And because we used subtotal as our formula here, it adjusts the average to just the ones showing. And so now it tells me that for my properties that are in Paulden subdivision, my offer price should be $74.91. But my properties in Clarkdale should be $88.99. And so that's how we get really accurate pricing, because we're taking a price per acre in a refined geographical area like a subdivision, figuring out that offer, and then multiplying it times the size of the property, so every property gets its own unique price. And if you follow these steps, you will get more offers, I promise you. So I hope this was very helpful for you. In the next session, I'm going to give you a little bonus where I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use some of this data and these techniques to do a better job of picking counties that are winning counties. And I'm going to make an extraordinary offer to you on a tool that can make all of this so much easier for you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.